Hey everyone, so I made this video here to show a full cooking process with no cuts, minimal editing, and basically I chose two recipes that I've never made before. So I'm going to kind of work through these here painfully, slowly, and hopefully give you a little bit of narration onto what's going on here. So one of the recipes I have is a recipe from America's Test Kitchen. It's a chicken piccata recipe. I've made chicken piccata before. I've never made this exact recipe. Me personally, I'm kind of a OCD recipe freak. I for some reason feel the need to follow everything as written to a T, even though you could probably just kind of figure it out as you go. So as you see here in the video, I've sped up things a little bit. I'm just going to get through the boring dicing of the shallots. So the first step in this recipe, which I guess doesn't really matter too much what order you go to an extent, but the first step here was to dice up some shallots. Also doing this audio narration in one take, so total time for this video currently is sitting at 57 minutes and 36 seconds. So as you can see, or kind of see in the clock in the background, I started cooking at approximately 5:50 p.m. I think my total time from when I began cooking to when I was putting food in my mouth was approximately an hour and 20 minutes. So kind of a long time. Again, I contribute most of that due to the fact that I am kind of OCD with my recipe following. So had I winged some of this, I probably could have cut that time down considerably. So at this point, you're just kind of seeing me doing some prep here. So I'm just using my one of my favorite tools, the bench scraper. So I use the bench scraper for all sorts of things, like picking up small pieces of shallots, cleaning off the nooks and crannies of a cutting board, also discarding of the waste here. Also cleaning my knife. So the other recipe I have here is a recipe for cheesy scalloped potatoes by Cook's Country. So I'll be starting that shortly. I'm also, as I'm doing this, I'm also trying to kind of work out the timing so I can have everything done at the same time, which again, I've never made these recipes before, especially the scalloped potatoes. I don't think I've ever made scalloped potatoes in my life. That might be kind of crazy to some of you, I don't know, but never made them. I don't know why, no excuse. They're delicious, as I learned this night after making them. So I'm trying to prep for both of these dishes here. I'm currently dealing with some garlic. As you can see, my fast approach here is to use the side of the knife to smash those garlic cloves open, and then I peel them off, and that's when they get a little bit sticky. I know some people complain about the stickiness of the garlic, which is a thing. Sometimes I just chop off the little knobby ends of the garlic. Probably unnecessary, probably a time waste. I don't know. I just do it. A lot of people swear by the garlic press, which I am a believer in the garlic press. I actually have two garlic presses, so I'm not using one now because I'm just dealing with one very small clove of garlic and one regular to small clove of garlic. So it's just a quick thing. It would probably take me more time to get the garlic press, get all the garlic pressed out, and then wash that additional garlic press. And by wash, I mean place it in the dishwasher. So as you'll see in the video, I do kind of speed things up. It is for the most part uncut. There's a few cases which I'll point out, but that's mostly just due to other issues. So maybe this can benefit some people seeing a full cooking video from start to finish. For whatever reason, I decided to kind of turn this garlic into a paste, which is done by just sort of sliding the edge of the knife down and crushing the garlic as you go. I don't know if that's a very good explanation or not. But again, kind of an unnecessary step that I probably could have shaved off a few seconds by not doing. So you'll see several sort of mistakes, a couple big ones that I made here. So this was definitely a learning experience for me as well. Very much so a learning experience for me. Lots of examples of what not to do in this video. So again, gotta love the bench scraper. So the cameras I'm using here, I actually have two cameras in this video. I have a chest-mounted GoPro Hero 4 Black, which is currently in 4K, 24 frames per second. Now I just switched over to my head cam, and that's pretty much so I don't give you guys the crotch shot, as you'll see too many times anyway. Rummaging through my clean dishwasher. So the head camera is only 1080. It's a GoPro 3, so it doesn't have 4K, but just kind of came in handy. So I have to have that chest-mounted GoPro down at an angle quite a bit so that you can see kind of the cutting board and my hands and what I'm doing and whatnot. So if I'm like reaching up like I am now, you can't really see that. So then I switch over to the head-mounted GoPro. So not sure what I'm doing now. I'm measuring out some water. Oh yeah, so for both of these recipes, we're going to use some chicken stock. So depending on, you know, kind of what you guys are used to, you might do things way differently here. So I'm actually making chicken stock from what you'll see in a second, the Better Than Bouillon. Well, it's not really in the shot here, but I'm sure you guys are familiar. Where did I put my Better Than Bouillon? It's in there somewhere. Oh, there it is. Alright, so I got my roasted chicken Better Than Bouillon. If you guys use this a lot, or if you don't use this a lot, it's a great substitute for chicken stock, chicken broth. It's a really easy ratio to remember. You do 1 teaspoon of that paste into 1 cup of boiling water. That gives you 1 cup of chicken stock. It's a little on the salty side, so if you're using it for something that has a lot of salt already, you want to be careful with that. You may want to dilute a little bit more. So I'm bringing a cup of water to boil so that I can measure in 1 teaspoon of that bouillon. For my cheesy scalloped potatoes, I'm going to need to grate some cheese for that. Now, some sort of shortcuts. I don't think they're really shortcuts, just substitutions rather. The recipe calls for cheddar cheese. I don't have any cheddar cheese. Actually, I do have some extra sharp cheddar cheese in there, but it's not enough for this recipe. What I do have a lot of is this Colby cheese. So, small substitution. I'm definitely not a cheesemonger, so I'm totally okay with subbing Colby cheese for cheddar. So I'm busting out the scale here because, again, like I said, I'm OCD. The recipe calls for 2 ounces of cheddar cheese, and this is a small recipe for scalloped potatoes. It says it's a recipe for 2, so I don't want to overshoot the cheese, and also it's the first time I've literally ever made scalloped potatoes, so I kind of want to get it right. So I'm going to bust out the scale. I'm going to weigh out 2 ounces by weight of my Colby cheese. So I've already tarred out my bowl. Or is it tare or tar? I don't ever know. Perfect. Right on the money. 2.1 ounces. Good enough. Get a lot of workout cooking. A lot of walking. I actually started wearing shoes in the kitchen, my house shoes. My feet get really sore after walking around on the hard tile. Maybe I should get one of those anti-fatigue floor mats. So you get to see my messy kitchen a little bit. My full trash can, messy countertops. So right now I'm going to grate out 1 ounce of Parmesan cheese for this scalloped potato recipe. And again, like I said before, I'm super anal retentive about these recipes, it's got to be exact. And then, you know, once I do it once or twice and I get more familiar with the recipe, I might wing things. I might estimate how much 2 ounces is. Oh, we're shooting for 1 ounce. Look at that. On the money. So the recipe calls for Parmesan, and that is Pecorino Romano. Whoops. I just made one mistake. So instead of Parmesan, which is compared to Pecorino, a more milder cheese, I went with the Pecorino by mistake, and so I'm going to have a pretty aggressively flavored cheese. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but I would definitely consider that a strong flavored cheese. So I'm okay with it, though. I'm a fan. So this recipe called for an interesting addition to the cheese, a little bit of cornstarch sprinkled into the cheese, and I think that's to add as a thickener. So the recipe actually says to avoid using pre-shredded cheese so that you can control the cellulose or the anti-caking agents that are included in those pre-shredded cheeses, and basically add your own smaller amounts of cornstarch, and then you mix that up into the cheese. So that when it melts, obviously that'll get incorporated and thicken your sauce. Mixy, mixy, mixy. So I've got a few mise en place things going on here, a few prepped items going. I got some cheese prepped, I got some shallots prepped, some garlic. We're already up to 12 minutes, and that's with some things fast forwarded. So I am not even close to even halfway through this recipe yet. Or recipes, I should say. I mean, technically I am doing 2 separate things. Scalloped potatoes. That's quite the side. That's not a simple thing. I wouldn't classify that as a quick dish at all. Compared to something like, say, roasted broccoli or even mashed potatoes. So I'm putting in my my 1 teaspoon. I am now second guessing myself. I just did 2 teaspoons. So did I do a 2 cup or a 1 cup water? Can't remember. That may be a mistake that I just now caught. So like I said, it should be 1 cup of the Better Than Bouillon for 1 cup of boiling water, or 1 teaspoon of the bouillon for 1 cup of water. I'm not sure what I just did there. I might have just made too much. Oh well. So if you're not familiar with that, you just kind of bring it to a boil, whisk it all in there. Going to spare you the boredom and speed up a lot of this stuff. So here I'm just getting really confused. I'm trying to read the recipe and kind of keep track of where I'm at, keep track of what's going to happen next, basically. Looks like I forgot to wash my lemon. Like I said, I'm trying to time these 2 things. I'm trying to prep the things that I'm going to need next. And then also try to stay a couple steps ahead of myself. And it's kind of difficult, at least for me anyway, to keep track of 2 different recipes, which things you'll need, which things can wait. So, you know, honestly, one thing I learned from this is I could have benefited from more time reading the recipe before I even started things, or reading both recipes and just kind of reading through, understanding the steps, just getting a better understanding for the overall things that need to happen for this recipe. So here with the lemon, I got confused because I'm thinking, you know, chicken piccata I've made before, we're going to use some lemon juice at some point, so why is it having me slice these things so precisely? And then I realized that it's going to add these lemon pieces to the sauce, which is a little unusual, or at least from the recipes I've seen. So that's why it took me so long to kind of get started with this chopping the lemon. You know, had I known we're going to be doing that, that's a way faster process. I'm also struggling with the seeds a little bit here. I am now realizing that we're going to add some of these lemon pieces in the sauce, so I'm trying to get rid of the seeds. Not the best method, jamming my knife towards my fingers like that. And then actually, I think at one point, the recipe calls for 2 lemons. I only have 1, as you can see, so that's part of my slowdown there. I was just trying to kind of think about what I'm gonna do with being short a lemon. I just decided, you know, it's gonna be fine. Oh, there's a crotch shot. Sorry, guys. A leg shot. Oh, I dropped a lemon seed on the floor. I don't want my dog to eat that, who you'll see later. So yeah, I just decided that being short 1 lemon, it's just gonna be short 1 lemon. It's just what it is now. So no big deal, you know. It's still gonna be delicious, I'm sure. And that's really one of the things I've learned about cooking as I go is it's definitely not as much of a science as baking where you can't leave out half of an ingredient. Whereas cooking, yeah, you can still leave out half the amount of an ingredient. Sure, it's not going to be as potent or strong, but it's still gonna be there. You're still gonna notice it. It's still gonna be good overall. Now, obviously, that's not 100% true across the board. Maybe we'll do a dish counter. There's 1. See how many dishes I create. Started with the clean sink. All right, what's next? So, I'm gonna spare you the time I'm spending reading here on the fly as much as I can. Alright, so I got 3 pans, 2 pans, 1 pot set up. I got my 12-inch stainless steel pan, 12-inch cast iron pan, and my pot that I use for my chicken stock. So I decided that the scalloped potatoes are going to go in my cast iron because that has to go in the oven. And more importantly, I decided that my stainless steel is going to be for my chicken piccata because if you haven't made chicken piccata before, one of the best things about it is you get to make a pan sauce out of the crispy brown bits that are stuck to the bottom of that stainless steel pan. And that's like one of my favorite things about cooking, especially in stainless steel cookware, is deglazing all those beautiful brown bits from the bottom of the pan. Okay, so I'm just continuing my scalloped potatoes here. So it calls for dried time. And so notice there I'm trying to break out of the habit of immediately throwing everything into the sink or into my dirty dishes pile or whatever. I'm trying to save things because, as you can probably see, I'm not the best at reading ahead of things. So I might have to use that half teaspoon or that tablespoon or that quarter cup in 3 minutes. And I might just not realize it. So if I put it in the sink, now I'm going to be like, oh man, it's dirty, I can't use it again. I'm going to have to hand wash it or get a different thing out or something like that. So that's one of my new things. I'm trying to basically not throw everything in the sink unless I know that I'm for sure done. I don't know why I'm shaking that so much. Oh, it's brand new, that's why. By the way, have you guys ever seen buttermilk sold in clear containers? It totally separates, which isn't a problem. You just shake it up and it's fine. But that's why I think I'm shaking up the carton because I can't see it, so I just want to be sure. I don't know if heavy cream separates like buttermilk will. I'm assuming it probably doesn't. I'm assuming buttermilk is different since that's sort of the stuff that is separated from the heavy cream during that whole process. I believe is how that works. Okay, so I'm just rinsing, not dirtying, because I'm going to reuse it in a second. I'm a changed man. Alright, so I'm putting my cold stuff in the fridge because I'm OCD. I'm going to keep my cold stuff cold, which is honestly, it probably doesn't even matter. This is a short time. This is like a 15-minute period. It would be out at room temperatures, which is totally fine. No one's going to get sick and die. But whatever, it makes me feel better. It's my kitchen. Oh, nope. What am I gonna do? So I have 1.5 cloves of garlic here, and the recipe calls for 2. So I'm trying to figure out which one needs more garlic and what I'm gonna do with it. So am I gonna use garlic powder? No, I'll put that garlic powder back. Okay. So let's put a little bit of garlic in with the thyme. That's gonna go for the scalloped potatoes. The rest is gonna go in with my shallots, which are now cooking and almost burning in my cast iron. Forgot about those. That's all right. They'll be fine. So again, my shallots are for, well, they're for both recipes, but the cast iron is for the scalloped potatoes. So I know, so one of the things that I do know for sure is that my chicken piccata is going to come together a lot faster than my scalloped potatoes are. Scalloped potatoes need to simmer for a little bit, and then they need to bake a little bit. That I did read ahead on, so I'm crotch shot, fairly well prepared there. Ah, the mandolin. This is literally the first time I've ever used this tool. And look, I still have the sticker on it. That means I didn't clean it well, but whatever, I'm just gonna use it. Kind of gross, I know. So again, like I said, the very first, I literally never use this. I bought it for scalloped potatoes, you know, and other things. It does the julienne slices, like French fry slices. But we're gonna be doing 1/4-inch slice russet potatoes. My scalloped potatoes here. So I bought this. I'm super nervous about it. My wife is a nurse practitioner, so she gets to tell me all about the injuries that she sees with mandolins. If you want to see some injuries, just go read some Amazon reviews. You'll see some mandolin injuries, I guarantee you. Peeling my potato. Man, I hate peeling potatoes. It's like, I don't know. It's my least favorite thing to do. I hate peeling potatoes so much. I get to that flat spot and they don't sit nicely. I hit my fingertips occasionally. That's a badass peeler, by the way. If you guys don't know about those, I'll have to. I think it's like a what are they called? Rikon or something like that. I can't remember, but they're super cheap. They're like $6, $5-6 on Amazon. The one caveat that you need to know if you guys check these out, the blades, yeah, they're super sharp, but they're bare carbon steel. That means they rust. So here's what I do. I just rinse them off under the water. If it has a lot of stuck on grime, I might run a sponge over it or something. But the key is you got to dry them off immediately. You can't let them air dry because they will rust. Guaranteed to rust. Go read the reviews. People will complain and say 1-star reviews because they rusted. It's their fault. Dry them off by hand after you wash them and they won't rust. Alright, so we're about ready to mandolin this potato. And I have no idea how to use this hand guard, so you're going to watch me painfully struggle through this. Do I smash it on here? I don't know if I do, but let's give it a shot. Oh, how much pressure should I give it? Oh, that was a lot. That was really smooth. Alright, this is easier than I thought it was. Okay, I'm getting toward the end here. May have to squeeze this out a little bit. It's not gonna work. Oh, damn. Oh, I just figured out how to mount that other potato. It's a lot easier than the first time. Alright. So we're down to about 7/8 of this potato now. How do I get this thing out of here without hurting myself? Oh, nice. I like this new tool here. That's way easier than I thought it was. So I'm not even going to mess with that little nubby end. It's going right in the trash. I don't want to lose any fingertips. Alright. We'll have to do a counter of the hand washings as well. I know part of the reasons for doing this was, you know, it seems like we're spending like 50% of our time just washing our hands sometimes. Yeah, it really does. I agree with that, especially when you're dealing with a lot of raw meat. You know, you touch the meat, put it on a cutting board, now you gotta wash your hands before you open the fridge or something like that. So yeah, I hear you. You'll see some of that a little bit later when we get to our chicken. Alright, so now I'm kind of panicking here. Actually, before this, you'll see. So right now I'm adding my my thyme and my garlic to the shallots. You'll notice. So at this point, the potatoes should like have already been in that pan. I'm kind of way behind. I kind of screwed something up here. So I didn't prep the potatoes before. I should have prepped them basically at the same time as sort of as everything else. Yeah, they would have got a little bit brown. I mean, I could have put them in some water. But basically what happened here is I let my shallots go for way too long. The shallots got too done, too brown. I had to turn the heat off or down low. And then I had to go do my potatoes. So in the time it took me to do my potatoes, my pan cooled down. There I am turning the heat back up. I'm just trying to allow that garlic and thyme to kind of warm up a little bit. I'm not too worried about browning it too much. So basically I need to get my scalloped potatoes going. I need to get my potatoes in the pan along with the, I believe, chicken stock and heavy cream. 1/3 cup each. So I got my chicken stock good to go. So is this a 2-cup measuring cup or is this a 1 cup? That I can't really tell. I think it's a 2 cup. Okay, so I did right. I didn't mess up earlier. I said I messed up with the amounts, but I did 2 teaspoons because I had 2 cups. So I'm currently measuring out a 1/3 portion of my chicken stock. And then now I'm adding my heavy cream and potatoes, and then I think we're getting to the cheese. One of the cheeses. Salt I keep in these little really handy, oh gosh, what do you call these things? Salt containers? Bamboo salt containers. I have 2 of them now. I used to only have the one for Morton brand kosher salt. And then I discovered Diamond Crystal kosher salt. It's a little bit less coarse than Morton's brand. It's also, some recipes will actually specify the brand of salt for a few reasons. One reason being the Morton's kosher salt is a little bit coarser, so if you were to say take 1 teaspoon of Morton's, it would actually be less salt than 1 teaspoon of Diamond Crystal kosher salt, just slightly less. Whereas if you took, 1 teaspoon of Morton's kosher and 1 teaspoon of like fine table salt, that fine table salt, you're gonna have way more fine table salt in that teaspoon. Salt by weight is exactly the same, whether it's table salt, coarse kosher salt, diamond crystal salt. By weight, it's all the same. So I'm trying to multitask here. I'm reading and stirring at the same time. I'm so good. So I'm trying to sort of figure out what I'm doing, like what's going on with these scalloped potatoes. Do I need to put them all in an even layer? How does this magic work? I've never done it before. I have no idea. Basically, I just put them in an even layer. You can probably read the directions there. Pause it. I'm just being annoying. So I set my timer for 10 minutes. Also, if you haven't noticed yet, I haven't even turned on my oven. So these potatoes need to go in the oven. But I know how quickly my oven heats up. And it's, I live near Chicago. It's close to 90 degrees outside at the moment. I'm trying to avoid as much unnecessary heat as possible. So I'm not going to preheat my oven, as the very first step says. I know better. So now is about the time that I'm going to preheat that oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit.
Bud.
I think we're getting ready to start some chicken. So we're at just about 29 minutes into the video. And I haven't even got the chicken piccata out of the fridge yet. And this is about the halfway mark. Slightly more than the halfway through the video. So we're gonna dredge the chicken in just a plain flour coating for chicken piccata. You could season the flour if you wanted to. I didn't need to in this case. So chicken piccata traditionally is a large chicken breast, sort of like either butterflied or just sliced all the way through horizontally, if that makes sense, so that you have thinly sliced chicken. I actually bought thin sliced chicken so that I could skip that step. It's not a huge deal to pound out your own chicken or anything like that, but there's the dog. So I got raw chicken hands. So I'm washing. I do use a brush, fingernail brush sometimes, as you can see, because I'm a little OCD. So we're going to season our chicken. I'm going to use a fork here so I don't have to flip it with my hand and wash my hands again. So I guess that's one little trick. Pretty obvious trick, I guess. Use something else to grab the chicken if you can. Tongs are fine, obviously. But they're a lot larger or more difficult to hand wash than, say, a fork. Or just don't use anything and use your hands. I see a lot of chefs on TV where after they handle raw chicken or raw beef or something like that, they flip it over, and instead of washing their hands, they just sort of rub their hands on their towel. So, you know, I'm sort of split on this. Obviously, I don't think it's very sanitary. I think a lot of it is just because of the TV show or the YouTube video or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. They can't necessarily show them, you know, a cut there so they can go wash their hands every time. Also, it might not matter for the final product. The final product might be getting cooked all the way through. And also, I think that you would be really surprised at what's actually going on in a real kitchen. Sorry to gross you out, but I can almost guarantee you there's some cross-contamination going on in real kitchens all the time that would freak a lot of us out. But it ends up being fine. You know, most of us are healthy adults, most of us, hopefully. I think a lot of our immune systems can fight off a lot of things. Certain things we cannot, surely. Still going with the fork here is going to work out for me. Nah, just going in. So I'm just kind of pressing down sort of lightly. I want a nice coating of flour on my chicken so that when it fries up, it's even. This isn't a batter. It's not going to be fried chicken. It's a light floured coating. It's definitely not the same as like a battered deep fried chicken. Okay, I'm keeping one hand clean here on purpose. Definitely useful to have one hand clean. In case you need to answer a text, grab the door, whatever. Which in my case, I didn't need to do any of that, so I'm just gonna wash my hands anyway. What are we up to? 3 dishes now? Well, more than that. I got some mandolin pieces. Got a measuring cup. Keep my towel on my shoulder, so you're gonna see that towel magically appear and disappear throughout the video. So my cast iron, or my scalloped potatoes in the cast iron, they're almost done. A couple minutes left. I need to get my chicken going here. Towel issues. Made a little bit more broth than I needed to. I did that just because it was an even 2 cups. I needed a little bit less than 2 cups. So, you know, kind of wasteful, but the amount that I wasted was trivial. So you just saw me pour a little bit of water in the pan. I'm trying to get a judge for how hot the pan is without a thermometer. Also, I just realized that my scalloped potatoes are probably like overcooked at this point with that big heavy lid on there. So that's like I think they call that a self-basting lid. So not only is it a tight-fitting lid, as you can see, those little pokey things on there allow the water to drip back down inside of the pan. So that's actually, I think it speeds up the cooking process. Correct me if I'm wrong. Also, it being cast iron, it's radiating a lot more heat from the top versus glass. So that's kind of a mistake I made there using that lid. I want to talk about what I'm doing here. So you can see the water is balling up like a ball of mercury, and I can roll it out of the pan. That's a great indication that your stainless steel pan is the perfect temperature for frying proteins in it. So now I'm adding my oil. I haven't added any oil to this point. I'm adding about, I don't know, 3-4 tablespoons, maybe a little less. My potatoes are definitely overcooked. Pretty much ready to eat at this point. But that's alright. We're gonna push on here. So I'm frying up my chicken. Okay, not much of a sizzle there, but there it is. So I think that's due to the flour. I'm not too sure. Like, it's not a very wet surface, so you don't get a lot of sizzle, but it's plenty hot. So that's one of my favorite things there, the splash guard, the grease splash guard. I love it for like bacon and, you know, shallow frying, shallow pan frying. It controls the grease spread a little bit, not all of it. I still get grease on the countertops and on the stove and stuff, but it's way better than not having it at all, that's for sure. Alright, so at this point I mix my cheddar in. If you heard the beep, my oven is just now, perfect timing, preheated. Honestly, I don't even need to use my oven at this point, but I'm going to anyway. So I'm mixing up these potatoes, and I'm kind of realizing that I'm crushing them as I go. So one mistake I made, I was way too aggressive. I'm in a hurry at this point. I'm starting to get a little bit stressed and tired. I'm being too rough, and I'm breaking up the scalloped potatoes. So my stove gets a little hot on that right side, so I can turn that pan a little bit just to kind of even out everything. What was supposed to be Parmesan is going on top, which is Pecorino Romano.
Alright.
That's going in the oven here. I think it called for like 10 minutes. I probably could have put it in for like 5, just to kind of melt everything through. So I'm just checking my chicken pieces, and also realizing that my silicone tongs were a terrible choice. You can see how slippery these chicken pieces are on that stainless steel, mostly due to that flour. If these were not flour coated, the chicken would not be sliding around like that in that pan. It would still release. It would still be perfect, but it would not be slipping and sliding around like that. More dishes. Again, just rotating my pan around to try to make that heat as even as possible. Not actually moving chicken pieces. We want to let those brown. I've already moved them a little bit. Try to let the dog in. There he is.
Buddy.
His name is Stout,
boy.
like the beer. He's a toy golden doodle. And he's my kitchen vacuum cleaner. So the recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm trying to measure it with a little guide, realizing it's a little short. It's probably totally fine. It was like, what, 2.75 tablespoons. I probably just could have used that last end piece, but my OCD, probably shouldn't use the term OCD, my anal retentiveness prevented me from going short on the butter. Plus butter is good. We love butter. 1, 2, 3, and chop. metal tongs next time. So you can see it's sticking a little bit after I flipped it. That's because that flour coating is pretty much all turned to liquid from with that lid. That even though it's a mesh screen, it's still trapping a little bit of moisture. So that top is got a little bit wet. Now it sticks immediately when you put it down, which it'll still release, so it's fine. Capers are one of my favorite ingredients, and I love chicken piccata because it has capers. So these recipes, they call for drained capers. I always kind of struggle with how do you drain the capers without losing the brine at the same time. So as you can see, I'm just kind of dumping them all into the fine mesh strainer and then back into a 2 tablespoon measuring spoon, which, by the way, these things are super handy. I have like 3 of these 2 tablespoon measuring spoons, and if you're anal retentive like I am, these are great. I love being able to measure out 2 tablespoons in one go. It's the simple things in life, you know? Alright, so I'm feeling pretty good about my chicken. I'm actually kind of thinking it might be overcooked at this point. That bottom, I don't know if you saw, looks pretty good. Pretty dark, actually. My pan's gotten nice and hot on that heat. That's my hot burner, my go-to burner. More dishes. So I try to be organized, but it doesn't always work very well. Alright, so now I'm going to temp out my chicken. And I was quite surprised. That piece, I think, was real thin. But I'm definitely done, which is not good. So this is one of my biggest screw-ups of the night here, is I basically overcooked my chicken too early in the stage, because in chicken piccata, that flour that is dredged on the chicken actually helps thicken the sauce, which you'll see a little bit more about later on. So I'm already at the 160. That one's at 170, so that's a thin piece, so it's reading real high. So yep, I did have some dry chicken this night. Honestly, everything was still delicious. My wife loved it, but she loves everything I make, so. Alright, so I'm letting my pan cool off a little bit, actually, because it was pretty hot for sitting on that medium-high heat for about 10 minutes there. So I'm about to add my my shallots, I believe. Yes. So I don't want those to, like, you know, instantly burn, basically. So I'm letting my pan cool off while I kind of take my time, while I cool off myself here and kind of recollect my thoughts. I love the flat scraper, because we're about to do the magic of scraping off those brown chicken flour crispy bits. So we're getting real close to the end here. We're about 3/4 way through. My scalloped potatoes have 4 more minutes left on the timer, which means nothing because they've been done about 10 minutes ago. But in a perfect world, I would have timed everything correctly. See, what's funny about hindsight is, at the time, I thought it was perfect timing, but I had overcooked my potatoes and overcooked my chicken, so yeah, I spent a little too much time on some things. I really don't know why I'm temping it for a second time. I have no reason for this other than I was curious. So again, more wasted seconds. When you add up all these wasted seconds, they turn into minutes. Rest of my garlic. So my heat's pretty low right now. You don't need high heat for this part. You don't want to burn garlic. Alright, best part's coming up. This is like what I live for, pan sauces. I can't get enough of them. So you can deglaze with anything. I'm using this chicken stock here. And as soon as that liquid hits that hot pan, all those crispy bits will release from the bottom of the pan and are now in part of your sauce. I need to bring the heat up a little bit so that chicken stock can boil or simmer. This is why the flat edge utensils are terrific for this. Look at that. No more brown crispy bits stuck. So you could deglaze with many things. Chicken stock, obviously, like I used. Wine, white wine is usually used as well. Even water, you know, if you're adding enough things to it as well. Typically, you need some sort of acid. In this case, the recipe is calling for lemon juice, and I only have half a lemon left. This recipe called for 2 lemons, so that's what I was talking about earlier, not having enough lemon juice. It is what it is. It's just going to have less lemon juice now. We're also going to add all those lemon wedges, those sliced lemon wedges, to the sauce as well, as you'll see in a second, which actually contributes. You might be thinking about the perth. Oh, I almost dropped that. That was almost a bad mistake. That would have been all of my lemon juice on the floor, which I have done before. Anyway, those lemon wedges are about to go in. Those white perth on lemon is a very bitter part, and they're including that. So here I'm actually looking through these lemon pieces here to make sure there's no seeds in there. I'm seeing some seed as I go. So my scalloped potatoes are way done. It's just basically cheese at this point. Let me tell you, it was delicious cheese. So my camera just died. My GoPro on my chest-mounted 4K GoPro that I was using. I think the battery died or the SD card filled up. I'm not too sure exactly which happened first, but they were both pretty close to the same time there. So that's all right. We didn't miss much. I didn't even put the chicken sauce yet. I'm actually just removing these potatoes out of my cast iron so that they, even though they're overcooked, I'm just trying to stop that cooking. You know, just don't want them to turn into absolute mush. They were still really good. I wasn't disappointed one bit with these potatoes. I mean, how do you screw up a bunch of cheese, chicken stock, heavy cream, potatoes? You can't really screw that up. It could be paste and it would still be delicious. I don't know why I did that. That should have been scraped back into the potatoes. That was a stupid mistake. Alright, so I'm kind of like temping again. I don't know why, but moving everything over to the pan. Now, what you're supposed to do at this point is let those chickens finish cooking in the sauce, and the flour that's on those chicken pieces is going to actually help thicken the flour. I'm sorry, thicken the sauce. Again, I'm being really weird with this thermometer for some reason. I don't know why. See, a learning experience for me. I'm learning all my weird habits that I have. So why am I poking this so many times? I guess I'm just ultra safe, ultra cautious, to a point where it's actually creating more time in the kitchen. Okay, more reading of the recipes. Never ending. So I think I realized that I really don't want to cook my chicken anymore. It doesn't need to cook anymore. I think I'm gonna actually cheat and thicken my sauce with some cornstarch. I mean, we already have cornstarch in our potatoes. Why not add a little bit to our piccata? So ideally, you shouldn't have to do this, but that's why it's there. Ah, yes, it wouldn't be a pan sauce without any butter. Every good pan sauce has butter at the end. Alright, I think it's whisked. So now we need to thicken this bad boy. So if you're not familiar with the cornstarch slurry, you're gonna add, I don't know, about a tablespoon or so of cornstarch. And you wanna mix it up with some cold water. Maybe a couple tablespoons of cold water is all you need to thicken this amount of sauce. I guess that's just one of those things that you kind of learn from doing it. So you just gotta try it. Next time you're making something with the sauce, add a little bit of cornstarch to it. You definitely don't want to add the cornstarch powder to the hot sauce. I mean, you kind of can, but this way I think it allows you to control how much you want to add to it. You really get a good idea. Also, it'll be dissolved more fully by pre-mixing it with water this way. So you also need heat for this cornstarch to thicken up. So my heat was off, I just turned it on. So it's not quite doing anything yet. I'm trying to allow my sauce to heat up a little bit before I start adding it. It doesn't take long with the stainless steel. So again, I just went all in with my cornstarch, not really being very patient at this point. Just want a thicker sauce, damn it. So as you can see, the more I stir, the more this pan heats up. It's kind of hard to tell in the video, but yeah, I guess you can kind of tell it's getting a little bit thicker. Definitely got a little more cloudy, less colorful. You definitely want to use small amounts of cornstarch. You don't want to fight for flavors, and you don't want to over thicken, obviously. Capers, again, one of my favorite ingredients for pan sauces especially. Salty, briny. They don't really have a texture, they just fall apart in your mouth. Okay, I think I whisked it good enough. So ever so important, taste your food. That gets the crucial noise. This one I was a little cautious about. It needed something. It definitely needs more of like a bite. The salt level is there from my salty chicken stock, but this is like a hearty, savory meal, so I'm going with the old standby MSG. This is a controversial ingredient for some people. I don't really have a problem with it. As you can see, I do just a small amount. That might have been like half a teaspoon tops. It was also very bitter, so I'm actually adding a little bit of sugar. Again, I'm just winging it here. I've never actually tried this before. That was, again, maybe half a teaspoon tops of just plain white sugar. Trying to knock out some of that bitterness with the purse of the lemon. It wasn't terribly bitter, but I wasn't a huge fan. So, as you can see, the sauce looks a lot thicker now. So I just added some stuff. So obviously you want to taste it again, right? You want to see if those additions actually did anything or not. So it's really important that you keep tasting until you like the thing that you're cooking. If you don't like the thing that you're cooking, then don't stop cooking until you like it. So I felt it needed like I don't know, a little bit of heat or something, like a little bit of bite. The ground black pepper wasn't really cutting it for as far as bite. So I'm, kind of processing. I'm just gonna go for the cayenne. The old Chef John standby. Again, just a small amount. That looked like a lot, so I'm putting it back. Maybe a quarter teaspoon. I kind of panicked a little bit here. I thought it was going to be too much cayenne, because from my eyes it looked like a lot of red dots in the sauce. But thankfully it definitely was not overly spicy. I wouldn't call it spicy at all. You can tell there's something there, but it definitely wasn't spicy. It's just right. Okay, so at this point, I'm happy. So I'm pretty much done. We only have a few more minutes left in the video. Basically gonna start yelling at my wife to come down and eat. I have to give her like the 5-minute countdown. So that's pretty much it, guys. At this point, I'm just sort of cleaning up as I go a little bit. Gonna work on the plating. Warming up my plates. If you guys have any questions, or if you have any requests or anything like that, I would love to do this again. I had a great time. I know these videos are super long. So thank you if you guys made it this far. Wow, that's awesome. It's been almost an hour, 57 minutes actually. So if you made it this far, that's amazing. I hope you guys, maybe learn something a little bit. If you want me to do something specific, please let me know. I could definitely do things differently. I definitely want to try it again though. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Close up of my gross looking scalloped potatoes that were delicious. Chicken piccata was divine. I'll end you with stout. Goodbye, everyone.